Hi, everybody. This session is all about finding joy in the work. As social workers, we have an opportunity to find joy each and every day. I'm Carol Campbell Edwards. I'm a faculty member in the Florida State University College of Social Work, and I'm also the president of NASW Florida and the chair for the National Council of Chapter Presidents for NASW. So today I want to talk about a topic that I feel very strongly about. When I became a social worker, one of the things I heard often was that social workers are always burnout or be careful for burnout. There was all this burnout talk. And so it made me very curious about why that was discussed more than the positive, the other side of the coin. Of course, we know that there are days that are going to be tough. We're going to have difficult days when we have too much work, too many cases, just too much to do. And we'll be tired some days, and all of that is true. But it is also true that we can find joy in our work, that burnout does not have to be synonymous with social work. So I want to challenge you on that perspective. I have some slides that I prepared that I'm going to share as we talk about finding joy in the work. And so one of the very first things that I want to show you is this photo. Now this photo has two glasses, and there are two questions that you might ask. Are the glasses the same size? Do they contain the same amount of liquid? Are they the same glass? Yes, this is the same exact glass, but it's from two different perspectives. So we might say, what do you see when you look at these two glasses? Some people might say they see it half empty, and others might say they see it half full. Same situation, but it's all in the way you see it. Now, when we first come into social work, we are ready to change the world. And so that is just something that's just part of the nature of the spirit that goes into it. And we quickly realize that it takes a lot to be able to change even a little piece of the world. But that's where I want to encourage you to start, is by focusing on your current environment, your current agency, the place that you do your social work practice, if it's a clinical practice, whatever the environment is, how do you change a piece of that? Because often when we take on the entire world, we end up being frustrated because we work for systems that have practices that are ingrained, that are difficult to change, that are hard to maneuver, right? And we know about systems theory that changing one part impacts the other pieces. So when you try and make a significant change, you will encounter resistance because a system wants to maintain its homeostasis. So we have to keep those kinds of things in mind and just focus on changing a piece of the world that means the most to us, where our passion is. At the bottom of this little graphic, it says, just do the best you can, right? Because if we were born to save the world, we would have been born wearing a cape and tights. But we were not. But we just have to change what we can and do the best that we can. Now, tip one for finding the joy in social work: gratitude. It starts with gratitude. Each and every day, you've got to wake up, you've got to make a decision. Think about what you are grateful for, especially on those mornings where you know you have a mounting caseload and you have all kinds of responsibilities. Think about what you're grateful for. Just stop for just a moment and think about at least two things that you are grateful for to start your day. Everything else that comes after that is going to be viewed through the lens of gratitude. And I'm telling you, things look a lot brighter when you're looking through that lens. Now remember, it doesn't deny the reality that you're facing, but it means that gratitude is part of your reality. It's not an escape from it. Next, gratitude promotes a healthy work life. And this is how. So gratitude, when you're grateful, you tend to achieve more. You're less likely to burn out, which is a great thing. Grateful people tend to pay it forward. Gratefulness increases emotional well-being because remember, you're looking through a different lens. You tend to get along better, have healthier relationships, and you have an opportunity to build that resilience muscle that we all need to work on. So, gratitude promotes a healthy work life. Now, there's a slide here that I love this slide. It's about the emotional bank account. So, we think about bank accounts in terms of our finances. And if you make more withdrawals than deposits, what do you end up with? Nothing. You end up on empty. Well, it's the same thing with an emotional bank account. If you keep making withdrawals without making deposits, you're going to end up empty. And that's not a place where you can find joy. So I encourage you to increase your deposits into your emotional bank account. And you have to decide what increases it for you. Is it reading a book that's just relaxing? Is it going for a walk? Is it taking some time to bake something? Is it talking to an old friend? Whatever it is, make those deposits for your own emotional well being. You are worth it. Resilience. We hear so much about resilience, and FSU has an amazing resilience project that I encourage you to check out. This definition of resilience is something that is a quote from Nadine Burke Harris, who wrote The Deepest Well. If you haven't read it and you want to read an amazing book on trauma, I'd recommend that. But one of the things she talks about is resilience. You cannot talk about trauma without looking at the other face of it, resilience, the ability to bounce back. Resilience is not something you're born with, it gets built over time. So that's why I think about it as a muscle that you're developing. So over time, you're able to build that muscle up and develop resilience. So in the face of trauma, tragedy, challenges, change, you have a strong resilience muscle. So you're able to bounce back a lot sooner. There are a few ways. This is your next tool, right? Next tool. Now, I've given you 3 tools so far. One is gratitude. The next tool is all about, remember, that emotional bank account, making deposits. And now we're talking about ways to build resilience. So to build resilience, you got to make connections with other people, healthy relationships. Avoid seeing crisis as insurmountable, like what we're in right now. We'll come out of it, right? We have to hold on. Accept that change is part of life. It happens all the time. So we've got to get used to it. Always be moving towards a goal, which means you've got to make actions and you've got to make decisions in order to keep moving forward. Look for opportunities for self-discovery all around you and nurture a positive view of yourself. All of us can grow and develop. All of us can get better. But right now where you are enough, just like you are. Next tool is optimism. I want you to think about optimism. It's been around for a long time. I first started to think about optimism as a teenager when I was introduced to the Optimist Creed that I'm going to tell you about. But optimism is a mindset. It's the way you view the world. You tend to view the world through this positive lens. It's the glass partially full that you want to look at, that glass that, there's room for more, but it's not empty, but there's room for more. So that's what optimism is all about. Now, there is some great research about optimism, and part of this research is quoted in here, but there was a study done at Harvard, and it looked at the fact that more optimistic you are, especially for women with an optimistic perspective are 30% less likely to really have a long-term physical illness and die from it. So that includes cancer, heart disease, strokes. So optimism really impacts our physical and emotional health. It also helps to build that resilience muscle that we talked about. Now, the Optimist Creed that I mentioned, I just put a copy of it here, but I'd encourage you to go on and Google it and get a copy of it. And it's something that I would encourage you to read, but it really is all about a promise you make to yourself that regardless of what you're facing, what you're going through, you make a decision to be optimistic. regardless of what else is happening around you. So the Optimist Creed begins with this one line: I promise myself. It is a promise you make to yourself. So I encourage you to read that. Now, to train yourself to be more optimistic, you can do it. Number one, try on a positive lens. Use positive reframing with every situation. Take note of the company that you're keeping, who's around you, who's feeding into, what you're hearing all the time. Encourage you to try journal writing for a few minutes a day, and ultimately acknowledge what you can and cannot control. Now, to sum up our little talk, self-care practices that create joy. This is the list from where we started. Number one, practice gratitude. Remember, each and every day, every morning, you kick off your day with gratitude. Thinking affirming thoughts, right? Thinking affirming thoughts, writing them down, practicing affirmations. Remember, strengthening the resilience muscle. You got to get it good and strong. Focusing on optimism. And then the last thing is to keep your cup full. So I have a graphic for this one. Usually if I'm in a workshop, I demonstrate this with water and cups, but I don't think I can pull that off very well on here. So I want you to think about the fact that you come into your day with a cup full. We come into life, we have a full cup, and it's our choice where we give it out. So you're pouring out of that cup throughout the day, right? Now, other people are pouring back into you, hopefully, and you have positive situations that are pouring in. But typically, we're pouring out a lot more than we're pouring in. My first supervisor taught me, she said, Carol, you can only nurture from your overflow. You can only give your best work from your overflow. So that means that you have to create so much fullness in your cup that it overflows. The overflow is what you give to others. All right? You have to pour so much into your cup. That means so many affirming thoughts, so many breaks, right? So many mental breaks that you want to take. Journaling, yoga, all kinds of self-care, vacations, right? So you have to pour so much into your cup that it overflows. And remember, that is what you then give to others. If you operate on a full cup as a social worker, your work is so much stronger, it's so much better, and you're able to give so much more hope to others. So keep your cup full. Thanks, everybody. Remember to find your joy in social work.